Welcome into the Toronto Sports Rush right here on the Bet Rivers Network. Remember, like and subscribe. We have great content for you all the time, and we got some really good content today. We got a friend of mine, Jeff Merrick.
Hey, buddy.
Hey Jeff, you can see him. You can see him pretty much anywhere. He is everywhere
Too
these
much.
days, which is
Too much.
great. I'm glad to
Too
see
much.
that for Jeff.
It's too
A
much.
lot of times you see him. He has a great, podcast, the Sheet on Daily Faceoff. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Get it correct? Yes, because I see you on there. You have a great setup. You have a great guest, so it's a good job by you guys.
We put a lot of lipstick around me, make me look good, make me sound smarter. You know what? Yeah, I'll tell you, EJ. Here's the trick that I was always taught when I started broadcasting. If you want to make someone look smarter than they actually are, now look at my set here, folks. Put books behind them and glasses on them.
Yeah,
that's all
there you
I
go.
got. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Books and glasses. Make me.
Yeah,
Look
I
like
got
I'm
the
smarter
I
than
got the
actually I am.
glasses. I have
Yep.
books off to one side, so I have a little
Yep.
of them. I've come from the same school of thought when it comes to that. But Jeff, we got. I mean, we're in the off season, and it has
Yeah.
quieted down a little bit.
Yep.
But we went through a kind of tumultuous, 2 or 3 months here, going back into the end of
Yeah.
the season with firings, playoffs. It's free agency, offer sheets. It's been a crazy time, but I do want to start by asking you something. I'm on social media. I'm always checking to see what's going on because you never know when the latest offer sheet is going to drop, right? So you got to see what's happening there. I saw you were talking about something with Jim Rutherford yesterday, apparently, and
my God.
you were having to correct the record. As someone who has, I talk like you. I talk for a living. I say a lot of things. Sometimes people misconstrue or don't understand what I mean. Sometimes I'm not completely clear. But what happened with that? Why were you having to correct the record around Jim Rutherford?
So I do a weekly hit, in Vancouver on the Sekeres and Price show. And one of the things, because as you very well know, around the Detroit Red Wings right now, and this replacement for Steve Yzerman, this search, it's locked down. Like there's barely a whisper that's come out. Like the only name that I've been able to sort of cobble together that I believe is going to be part of this process is Scott White of the Dallas Stars, which should surprise nobody. Any general manager position pops up, like he's considered one of the next ones. Kind of like how we looked at Matthew Darche for so many years. Eventually, it's going to happen for him. We say the same thing about White in Dallas. And one of the things that I had wondered about, considering I was on a Vancouver property talking to Canucks fans, I said, well, listen, like Jim Rutherford was a ex-Detroit Red Wing netminder a couple of different times, as I recall as well. Do you think that they would consider that? Because any manager that goes in there right now to Detroit, the first thing they need to do is stabilize things. Like the ground, continues to shift around the Detroit Red Wings. They need someone to come in and stabilize this situation. And I just sort of said offhandedly, knowing that I'm talking to a Vancouver audience, I wonder if they would consider even just have a conversation, maybe even look at bringing Rutherford in as a consultant or something like that. Would they consider Jim Rutherford? I just thought that this was like, EJ, I thought this was like Talk Radio 101.
Yeah.
Like all the things that we're taught when we started this, like, find like things that are relevant to the marketplace that you're talking to.
Yeah.
And it would make some sense. And I just thought it was a kind of throwaway comment, quick little potato chip conversation that takes about 5 minutes. And then you go, empty calorie, we'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
And then my phone starts going off yesterday with people saying, are you saying the Wings are looking at Jim Rutherford? I'm like, no, where is this coming from? And so I hop on Twitter X, and sure enough, I see my name attached to Marek saying that Rutherford is part of, I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing here what the comments were. And I said, normally I just let these things go. I'm like those Tai Chi guys in the park in the morning and just, okay, go and leave it and let it go. And it's like, I really don't need my name attached to this statement, which is wrong. We've all been misquoted. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. It's happened to everybody. But this one has a certain gravity to it. And there's a sensitivity around this marketplace right now, as you well know. So I just said, let me just throw it there. I did not say that. And that's all that I did. But you know the deal. A lie runs around the block before the truth gets its pants on to open the front door.
Yeah.
So it had its moments, and I kind of went along. I got dragged into it. How about that?
Yeah, it is kind of funny when you say something in one vein and people take it in another direction. I mean, really, it's just a
Yep.
speculation. I mean, is it out of this world that they wouldn't call Jim to talk to him? I mean, I think with all these searches, I think a lot of times, Jeff, there's always the fact finding mission, right? You're looking to talk to a lot of people. If you're looking to
Yeah.
have cast a wide net, you don't really plan on hiring many of them, but you want to talk to them.
That's a great point. And you know what? We saw this with Nashville. Now, Nashville, you might look at and say this is a unique situation because, Bill Haslam's a new owner, and so he wants to get a sort of sense of the landscape. But that general manager search went on and on and on and on, and everybody was interviewed and everybody was dragged. Some were brought back for second interviews, etc. They took a long time with that. But I think we should look at that and say, well, it makes sense because the new owner wants to get a snapshot of everybody involved here and wants to get a sense of who the players are. And I'll tell you, like if I ran a team and I was interviewing for management position, coaching position, I would want to talk to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
If not for anything else, one, people surprise you all the time. And maybe someone that you hadn't considered just blows you away in the interview process. You click with them and you say, you know what? I didn't consider this person, but now that I've actually spoken to them, this makes a lot of sense. And also from a fact-finding point of view, this is a free focus group. This is free information. This is free information for you. So why you would cast your net narrow never made sense to me. Casting it wide, unless you're under the gun, you have to hire someone right away, and you go by gut and you go by people that you already know and are comfortable working with. I'm with you. I would cast the net wide. So it would only make sense for them to talk to Chris Ilitch, to talk to as many people as possible. Would that include Jim Rutherford? If I were Chris Ilitch, yes, it would. But is it a situation where he's involved in the process of becoming the next manager of the Detroit Red Wings? Again, I don't know that. The only comments that I made were, would they talk to Jim Rutherford?
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
But
I think that's.
But you know what's interesting about? Can we have one quick comment, EJ?
Yeah.
You know what's interesting, and like social media generally has been very kind to me. And what I find is people are quick to correct the record. And even when I read it, like a lot of the comments were, he didn't say that. Here's what he said. Yeah. So like and a lot of times hockey social media, hockey Twitter will do the work for you before you get to it.
That is true. I mean, I noticed that as well, but it does kind of get, especially this time of year, Jeff, when people are looking for stories, they're looking for news, they're looking for speculation, they're just seeking these things out. So it's more likely to travel in this time of year where there's not games and other things that kind of are a barrier to that being out there and people seeing and listening to different things.
So the lead on my show today is going to be that you're interviewing for the Detroit Red Wings job. Are you cool?
Well, listen, I did talk to Chris today, and very early conversation.
Right.
The fact-finding thing is funny, and it brings me back to the Toronto Maple Leafs because, they went through something pretty similar, Jeff, right? And they ended up surprising, I think, pretty much all of us by hiring John Chaika, who has, been on the job. It seems like he's been on the job for like 6 years. He's been on the job for like 3 months. All the things have gone on there. But that was a similar process. Well, how do you grade things out so far in this couple of months where they've sorted through some players, they've made trades, they've made moves, they had some good fortune with the lottery, they've moved some people out, they've brought some people in. How do you kind of grade out what's happened in these couple of months?
Well, let me preface this. It's a great question. I think we've all wondered it. Let me preface it this way. The way I'm looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs right now, and we're not going to know until we start to play games. I'm trying to figure out whether, let me phrase it this way. Is this motion or is this movement? Because you can go out and make a ton of moves, right? Washington Capitals did this as well. Maple Leafs really went for it to bring in a lot of new faces here in a lot of different spots. And we're not going to know that until we see 20 games, 40 games. Is this just making motions with my hands? Is this just making motions by bringing in new names and shuffling players in and shuffling players out? Or is it actually movement? Is it actually going to do something? Like they really addressed the bottom six. That's obvious. Oh, by the way, I still don't think they're done. Like I think you're right, and we can all feel it. We can all see it. Like right now, it seems as though, at this point in the summer, there is a pause, and everyone's sort of stepped back and said, "Okay, now let's have a look at what the landscape is like now."
Yeah.
But I don't know whether this is. I don't know whether this is something that is going to quote unquote work, because the other thing that we have to remember too is, and I always remind people about this, other teams are allowed to try too.
Yeah.
Right. Like Florida's allowed to try. Tampa's allowed to try. Everyone in their division is allowed to try at the same time. And like, look, Florida's back.
Yeah.
Like the shark is back in the water here. And now that shark has, the return of Barkov, and they've added a Kachuk. Like, and they've just become, you look at all the moves. So like, if you think that they were miserable to play against before, go have a look at what Bill Zito went and did this offseason. So I respect you too much just to give you a frivolous answer. Like, yeah, it's an A+ or it's a B-. I don't think we really know. Like, I do like the coaching hire. I do like the GM hire. I have questions about bringing in the oldest goaltender in the NHL and hoping that playoff Bob can emerge here. I think that's a legitimate question. But I again, like I keep coming back to, like, this team is going to be led by Austin Matthews, and it's going to be led by William Nylander and John Tavares and Matthew Nyes, if he's still there, and Chris Tanev, if he can stay healthy. So as much as we might focus in on the shiny new toys, and here comes Duhaime and here comes Colton Sissons, and they've really gone out of their way to address the bottom six, we don't know whether this is, again, motion or movement. We got to wait for the games. I like the Hiller hire. I really do. And I think that he got a raw deal in Los Angeles by way of his public perception. His default is offense. But in Los Angeles, you have to play with what you have. What's the old line? Cows don't make ham. Like, you have who you have, and you have to coach to the benefit of those players. He does have more of an offensive slant. He works well with kids, and he got along great with Austin Matthews when he was there with Mike Babcock once upon a time with Toronto Maple Leafs. So I do like the coaching hire. I do like the GM hire. As far as the acquisition of the players, don't know yet. Drop the puck.
Yeah. I'll follow up on Hiller, because I was a little bit surprised. I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they can hire whoever they want pretty much who's available. And, Jim Hiller, I thought, I like guys in it with a second opportunity. So that, that weighs in his favor for me, because I think those guys can learn from what happened in a previous position and hit the ground running. And if they're smart, they really learn, and they can be good coaches. So I don't know how Jim Hiller is going to do here in Toronto. The one worry I have, Jeff, is that he did kind of have that meltdown in that series against the Oilers. And, there was a lot that went on in that series, but I mean, I would suggest to you, the LA media is not exactly like, they are not grilling you and following you around the block. So like, for him to have that kind of, just kind of a little bit of a meltdown in that situation, Toronto is going to be a lot different, where you're going to be asked to be interviewed 2, 3, 4 times a day, and things aren't always going to go well. So that would be my only concern. How do you feel about that?
It's legit. I mean, every coach says the exact same thing, whether it's Randy Carlyle or Ron Wilson or Sheldon Keefe, like, take your pick. All coaches say the exact same thing. I'm prepared for this. I'm ready for this. I know what this is going to be like.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, whenever it comes, they all say the same thing. I had no idea it was going to be like that. Yeah. I had no idea it was like, I'm jumping out of a helicopter here, and where's my parachutes? It's you're right. Like, it's tough. And the one thing that you have to have above all is thick skin. Right. Yeah. And like, you're going to make mistakes. Jim Hiller's going to make mistakes. I have yet to see the perfect player. I've yet to see the perfect coach. I've yet to see the perfect manager, etc. I've yet to see the perfect broadcaster. So like, we're all human beings here. We're all going to make mistakes. The one thing, like the one consistency, and I'll go back to like one of the Keith Pelly interviews and press conferences, where the accent was going to be on analytics, and you need to be able to justify the moves that you make. One of the things that I think we've forgotten here is, you know, Jim Hiller, got the original assistant coach position because he had his own analytics company and was shopping it to coaches, and Mike Babcock was one of them. So, and we all know that John Chayka's background, et cetera, with analytics. So, like, when you look at how this team has been put together, it is sympathetic with what Keith Pelly talked about when they were going to redo all of this. So it does remain consistent, and I don't think yet we've had those. Well, hang on a second. This isn't what Pelly talked about. Why are they doing it this way? So far, there has been a consistency.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Now, you talked about the fact that maybe they are not done, and I tend to agree with you. And you're right. There does become we have a pause, right? We have that window before the draft, and then we have that little week before free agency, and then free agency happens, and then after a couple of weeks, this year was different because of the offer sheets. We had two of them, so that and one obviously that blew everybody's doors off was a big one. But then we've kind of settled into a little bit of a quiet time as players that don't have a lot of leverage, teams that are trying to push on that side. The Cutter Gauthier is one example, but there's several examples around the league. And so those things, there's no deadline right now, so nothing really happens. What do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs would like to do if they could between, now and opening night? Something reasonable that they could do.
So there's a couple, and they're obvious, and Morgan Riley is one of them. And that name has been out there. This even goes back to like the previous regime, not with Treliving, but even with Dubas. There were teams that would call on Morgan Riley for a while there. I think we all thought that there was going to be something between San Jose and Toronto around Erik Karlsson, and Morgan Riley would have been part of it at that point. Retention, I believe, was a major issue there, but let's not pretend those conversations didn't happen. Morgan Riley's name has very much been out there. There are many that believe that, it's time for him. So I think that that's probably something that we should look at. And the other is one that I still scratch my head over, but perhaps it's the only piece they have where they know that someone will overpay to get this player. And that's Matthew Knies. Which still, EJ, I look at Matthew Knies and I look at the skill set and what he brings, and he's the young new age power forward in the game with the potential to be a consistent 40-goal scorer here. And I say to myself, why are we talking about Matthew Knies? And it's two regimes now that we're talking about Matthew Knies, and he's got a great contract. And the only thing I can come up with is he's the one player on the roster that the Maple Leafs know a team will definitely overpay to get. Yeah. Because you're paying, like, you look at players, they exist in two states, potential and actual. And when it comes to Matthew Knies, you're paying for both, because I still don't think that we've scratched it to figure out just how good this kid can be. So there's a premium attached to that too. And I think if you're the Maple Leafs, if you're John Chayka, you say to yourself, our default is we're keeping them, but teams keep calling, and we might just be able to get to a place where someone significantly overpays to get them. And at that point, maybe you have the legit conversation of what do we do here with Matthew Knies. But my default would be, you have a player like this, keep them. I know there's no sacred cows. I know no one's untradeable. But holy smokes, why are we talking about Matthew Knies? How many? Count on one hand. How many guys like this exist around the NHL? You just mentioned Cutter Gauthier. Like, how many guys like that exist around the NHL? Anyway, but those seem to be the two obvious ones here.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it about Matthew Knies. It's just the reason his name is out there is because he has a lot of value, and this is a team that, to me, the biggest thing is they've got to try to continue to remake their defense. Yes. And so if you could move Knies and get a real piece top 2 or 3 defender back there that can really change the dynamic of the way you move the puck out of your end, I mean, that would be something you consider. But the fact is, he hasn't moved yet, right, Jeff? So they've
That's
probably
it.
considered a lot of things, and we heard all that noise around the trade deadline when maybe he was going to be traded to Montreal. But in
Montreal.
the end, he's still a Toronto Maple Leaf, so he's an asset for them. And I think you're right. I think they'll continue to listen. And if somebody comes along with something really game changing for them, I think they would do it, but it has to be significant.
I wonder how much of this, EJ, is the Maple Leafs have sort of chummed the waters with it's possible. Like, we'll entertain the conversation.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens after 40 games. Because again, we don't know how this Maple Leafs team is going to do.
That's correct.
We do think that they are going to be better.
Yeah.
But if things go sideways for the Maple Leafs, and it looks like, okay, and now we're having the questions about Austin Matthews and his future with the Toronto Maple Leafs, then all of a sudden you say to yourself, okay, maybe now is the time, right? Because trades happen a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's one quick phone call and it's done. A lot of other times it's like, oh yeah, we started, you've been part of this before. Like, you've seen this, you've been part of this. We started this conversation about Nyes 18 months ago.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Exactly.
So, you know how these things can work. So that might just be, well, depending on how the Maple Leafs start next year, and we're going to reevaluate after 40 games, 20 games, 40 games, whatever it is.
Jeff, one of the things I love to look at in the summer is when the schedule comes out. And, last year I looked at the schedule and the Leafs had a lot of home games early, as they kind of normally do. And this year I'm looking again, 16 of the first 23 at home. They open with a 4-game homestand, Montreal, the Islanders back-to-back, Ottawa, and Nashville. So they open with the 4 games, and then they go have a little Western trip, Vegas. They have to say hello to Mitch Marner, and then Colorado and Utah. But, I just think it's so important for, listen, if you're like a team that is either going to be a team that is a rebuilding team, a team that's kind of bottoming out, or a team that's at the very top that we know is going to be good, I don't worry about the schedule as much. But for teams like Toronto that I think, and I thought the same thing last year, they need a good start. They need to get running on the right foot. When you look at the schedule, do you agree with me that I think, I just think the first, 6 weeks of the season for the Leafs with 16 to 23 at home is going to be pretty important.
I'm of a couple of minds here. Normally I would agree and say, of course, like the Maple Leafs, no surprise, like considering what happened last year, they do need to get off to a great start.
Yeah.
That's obvious. But I'll circle back to the beginning of this conversation, EJ. There's a lot of new faces here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of new players. And I was, like you and all Leafs fans, curious to see what the schedule looked like for them. And when you have a team where there are so many new faces in a lot of different positions here, I remember talking to someone in Philadelphia about this when this is a long time ago, and they made a ton of moves and they opened up with a road trip, and I said, oh, this is going to be awful for you guys. I feel bad. And the manager said, like, no. This is actually good. Yeah. We need our guys on the road because we need them to be together, right? When you're at home, it's 23 guys and 23 Ubers. That's the only thing that I look at and say, there's a lot of new faces here. They need to get to know one another. And they need to get to know one another through a season. That's why I say, as much as it may look like a benefit to open up at home and play all these home games, normally you would look at that and say, that's right in the sweet spot of the bat for the Maple Leafs. There's a lot of new players here. Part of me says, this team needs a road trip to kick off the season so they're together. You know what I mean, EJ? Like, there's no perfect situation, but whenever I see a team with a lot of new faces, I say, they better open up on the road because they got to get to know one another here.
Yeah. You know what's funny about it too is as I take a deeper dive, right? Like, they have 2 interesting road trips in October because they go out west, and those are trips. It's not like in and out. They have one trip where they have a back-to-back with San Jose and Columbus I think it's the 4th week of the season. That's just for Columbus and back. But they go Vegas, Colorado, Utah for their first trip. That's a really good trip where guys get to spend time with each other. Then they go Edmonton, Calgary, Seattle, Vancouver, another long trip where guys get to spend time with each other. So when that first 4.5 weeks of the season, they'll have those 2 trips that could help them. If they get through that and they start to find their way, then they've got 8 of 9 at home. And that might be that window where, okay, if we can get through this first month or so and, do well at home and figure things out on the road, that might be the push in there when they have that 8 or 9 at home to really make a statement. Because as you point out,
Yeah.
other teams have gotten better. Florida was totally out of it last year. They
Yep.
are right back in the mix. Maybe the best team in the National Hockey League with the moves they made.
Could
You know,
be.
Tampa Bay is not going anywhere. I love what Montreal has done. Buffalo has been better. I mean, you go down the list, right? So this is not going to be easy.
That's what I keep saying. Like, okay, like Florida's back, so they've got a spot. If you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, even if we're looking at this right now here in late July and saying, it's going to be 3 from the Metropolitan, it's going to be 5 from the Atlantic here. Florida's back in the mix. Who's out? And if the Maple Leafs are in, who's out here?
Yeah, I would say Boston is the one they've got to probably. That would be the one, right?
Boston, Ottawa have lost Brady Tkachuk. There's a new look there with Eklund. So I say to myself, because I'm with you, like I'm always too quick to dismiss Boston, and then they come back.
That is true.
And they come back and make the playoffs. Like, Bruins.
Yeah.
And then you forget like Swayman, McAvoy, and Zacha had like his best season he's ever had last year.
And they have great culture there. They find ways.
They do. At the end of it, like they find a way. Now, what they do when they get there is another conversation, but they scratch and they claw and they get there. And I think that Marco Sturm is one of the more underrated coaches in the NHL, and players adore him. Yeah. So, and now he's got JJ, and now they just added JJ Peterka. Like here comes some more goals. So I don't know, like it's going to be fascinating because to your point, like here come the Florida Panthers, and they're back and they might be the best team in the NHL. And don't write off Tampa. I always say it's the fool that bets against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
And Buffalo ain't going anywhere. Like, I don't know if they have the same regular season as they did last year, but they're not going anywhere. That's a really good team. So, and Montreal, that story's well told.
Jeff, is Buffalo getting Hellebuyck? I think they will get him eventually. What do you think?
I do. I think that look, there's obvious interest there. I just wonder. I mean, listen, there was a lot of conversation about this around the draft too.
Yeah.
Everything, every trade has a price.
Yeah.
There are some pieces that you don't want to include. If you're the Winnipeg Jets, you want, probably UPL back. And the one thing that I wonder is what happens to the conversation in Buffalo when Kevin Cheveldayoff says, Josh Doan?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be a happy moment for me. I mean, now, but I don't know. Like, I think they've needed for such a long time a second center there, right? They're hard to find. I mean, first centers are hard to find, and good second centers are hard to find. And I'm just wondering if that's the holdup. If they're looking for somebody, it's maybe one of those young players that we don't talk a lot about with Buffalo, because they've got a couple of guys they really are high on. And I get the sense, this is just me speaking now, so we'll get into that whole thing where we started today, right? With me, speculation, right? Just me speaking, but I got the sense that Buffalo was willing to include someone like Jack Quinn, for example, and I think Winnipeg wants something different. And I do think we're sitting here at, end of July, going into August. There's no pressure right now on either side. That pressure will build as we move towards September and training camp and the regular season. I'll be curious to see, but I do think it just seems like it's one of those deals that will happen at some point.
I could see a move involving Quinn. Yes. Some of those younger players that you talk about, like Consta Hellenis had a fantastic season, and he's one of them. And listen, his name was bandied about when St. Louis was talking with the Buffalo Sabres last year. I think that Noah Ostlund is going to be a fantastic player in this league for a long, long time. I wonder about Radim Mertka is another one, top 10 pick defenseman. At a certain point, I always say, like, you have to get out of the green banana business. Coaches will always talk about it. I don't want green bananas. I want players. We need players. And you can have all these prospects. Chicago's going through this right now. And you got to say to yourself, like, at what point do we need to take the big swing? Where are we at on our, on the evolution of our winning cycle? And there becomes a moment where you got to take that massive swing. And it does feel like Hellebuyck is that swing for the Buffalo Sabres. Like I'm of the mind that they are at a point now where they do need a massive swing.
Yeah.
Like they do need something big. Now, the other thing that I was told too is, as much as Hellebuyck does make a lot of sense for the Buffalo Sabres, and I believe that Hellebuyck would be amenable to playing there and going there.
Yeah.
Internally, I believe, right away when you lose, everyone's emotional. So everyone's like, oh, blame this guy, blame that guy, and UPL's leaky and Lion is leaky and all these types of things. And then you sort of take a calm breath and a sober second thought, and you say to yourself, that's the first time UPL's been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to make up your mind about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen based on his first time in the playoffs?
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I keep coming back to as well. So it may seem like obvious and there's that clear path, but I do think that there are still clouds here. I really do. And you know what? At the end of the day, if it doesn't happen, I think Buffalo's fine to come back with the same goalie tandem.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't disagree with that. The only thing I would say is, you lose Tuck, you lose Byram. I know they have good young players coming, but the expectations are going to be completely different this year. And I think if you add a Hellebuyck to the mix, you firm up the goaltending, at least on paper. I mean, you firm it up. I think that makes a big difference for them. But we'll see. I mean, these are the things that are going to go back and forth. And will Cheveldayoff hold firm, or does he feel like he has to move Hellebuyck out after all this talk? I mean, there's both sides of that coin. So I'll be curious to see. Hey, last thing I got to ask you, because we're running out of time here. Sure. Gavin McKenna. I'm seeing all the videos. Gavin McKenna working out with different guys with out west. He's he's with Macklin Celebrini and others, and looks great. What's your thoughts about? I mean, you're there in Toronto. You've been there a long time. You know how these things go. What are your feelings about McKenna coming in?
50 goals, 100 points. No.
There you go. Real easy. Real easy. I had him for 30 and 70. I saw him more as a playmaker, but okay.
I always sort of temper expectations. That doesn't matter who it is for kids coming into the NHL. Like, I look at this and I say, like, if he scores 20 goals and gets 50 points, that's a really good season. That's a really good season for Gavin McKenna. I know everyone's expecting him to walk in and rip up the league like he's Macklin Celebrini. He will. First of all, he's going to be given plenty of opportunity, and he's going to be playing with some really elite players, and is going to be given some high end power play time as well. I always try. I know it's impossible in Toronto. There's no such thing as a small story in Toronto. Every story is a massive story. It doesn't matter who it is or what it involves here. But I would just always sort of remind Maple Leafs fans, like, temper expectations. It's better to be surprised than disappointed. The NHL is a really, really hard league. We can all recall how he struggled the first half of the season at Penn State. And it wasn't until after the World Juniors that he really had the rocket attached to his back. And we think about that 8-point game as well. He's a very, very high-end, highly skilled player, but temper expectations. 20 goals, 30 assists, or 15 goals, 30. It's like, that's a good rookie season for someone here. Better to be surprised. Surprised.
That is true. I'll tell you though, he is a unique playmaker. I think he's got great vision, and I think he was so over scouted, Jeff. I've seen this forever. I mean, guys who come on the radar early, they just get picked apart all the time. And in his case, going to Penn State, it was a completely different path than anyone has been on prior. And, a tougher path in, like, going against older guys. I think he came through it really well. He had a few bumps, but he's an impressive guy in terms of what he can do on the ice.
And interestingly enough, the other guy, maybe the best example of the over-scouted player, someone that got exceptional status, was John Tavares.
Yeah,
he was a teammate. You can recall, by the time he was done in Oshawa, we nitpicked everything.
He'll never skate well enough. He'll never skate well enough. Yeah.
Take Hedman, take DeShane. No, throw Tavares. Okay, all right, fine, very good.
He did okay.
Yeah,
he did okay for himself.
Yeah, not bad. Not too shabby.
Listen, Jeff, thanks so much for all the time. I know you're a busy guy. I could sit here and talk to you for 5 hours about hockey. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again at some point. But good luck with all your endeavors in the summer. Thanks, here. Love watching you on the sheet there on Daily Faceoff. So keep up the good work there.
Thanks,
And I'm
pal.
sure I'll talk to you at some point.
We're around. We're not going anywhere, you and me, EJ.
That's
we're,
right. Let's
we're
hope
stuck,
not.
stuck with each other here. Thanks,
Yeah.
pal. Always good sharing a show with you, my friend. You be good.
All right, there he is, Jeff Marek. Thanks for the time. Jeff, you've been watching the Toronto Sports Rush right here on the Bet Rivers Network. Remember, like and subscribe. We will see you again very soon.